It's really hard to make that decision, to be perfectly honest. At least it was for me. The first time I had the opportunity to switch, I was approached by a former colleague of mine who had left a few years prior. And we had been, just kind of chatting about what sort of work he was doing. And when we started going deeper into that conversation, and he started, kind of outlining a vision of what I could do at the company that he was at, it sort of forced me to think, do I think the path that I'm on and the path that I could take, in my current employer is what excites me, and what I want to be doing, or is sort of this other alternative, potentially a better alternative. And that second job, with the technical requirements of it actually were the impetus for me to kind of go back and get a master's degree in applied statistics. So
Mm.
at the time, that was kind of the direction that I thought my career was going to go. And I decided to take that opportunity.
So for me, it's everybody's different, but I feel like 2 to 4 years at a job is usually a pretty good time. And obviously, that's like a pretty big range when you think about years. But if you are at a point in your job where you're confident and you feel really good about what you're doing, it's probably time to switch, to be honest, because that means that you need to be challenged again. And even though you're confident and you're the main person everybody goes to, um, you're not challenging yourself anymore. Now you're feeling like, okay, I don't even have to think about this. I'm just doing it. So it's good to like start recognizing when that happens. And then when you switch, all of a sudden back at the bottom and you have no idea what's happening. And it does take probably, I mean, like I said, 2 to 4 years to actually feel confident again. But that's okay. Like you'll have a good basis from your previous role to help with developing that. You'll still always, when you change, you'll always feel like you're back at the bottom and you don't understand what's going on. But it's how you learn things that you're able to apply.
I mean, those are very hard situations for sure. Then, I've seen a number of people in our department have those conversations, and within, our large health care company, they're very good at moving you around if you want to within the company and finding something that, you are maybe more interested in. I think the harder option would be if you and your manager just don't get along, so to speak. You could either talk to their maybe superior, or ultimately, the other thing I think you have to realize is you are at the very early stages of your career. If you're in a bad environment, it's not worth sacrificing either your happiness, or you've got so much time ahead of you. I don't think you should stay in a position that's not making you happy or fulfilled or motivated.
At first, I was very hesitant to want to switch so early on in my career. But then they asked me different things that I was looking for, such as salary, type of work. Something just told me that the time felt like it was right. I said, let me try this. And I made sure that my connections at my old company, I still kept them very, very solid. I was very cordial with everyone. I have nothing to bash about working there or anything like that. I just wanted to try something new. And I've heard from many, many people at my old company that if I ever want to come back, the door is open. So
I've been very fortunate and blessed to have had great employers as well as team members. Most of my former bosses are still my friends. We still stay in contact with each other. I know it's a blessing. It's not, something that I just get by accident. So it's helpful to be very thoughtful in your transition, to give notice as quickly as possible, and try to do everything you can to ensure a smooth transition. Yeah, I've never had any really big problem with those transitions. There were a couple jobs where I had to extend my last day a couple of times, again, to ensure there's smooth transition. I'm always willing to do that because these are my friends too, not just coworkers.
When I changed function, so I started my career in reserving and then moved to a pricing role. And what motivated me, I felt very good in my role in reserving. And I think when you start to master something, you want to move on to the next thing. And while certainly there was opportunity just within my existing department to try for other lines of business or other functions in reserving, I think I found myself not having ever been in a pricing role. I think I wondered if was that something that I would have liked to do, or maybe even more than liking to do it. I think it was a skill set that I wanted to know, is this something that I'm capable of doing? So at some future point in my career, would I be capable of moving roles if I needed to, or if I really wanted to? And so it was sort of like a feeling that, am I missing something, and wanting to see what another function might be like. So I think when you're feeling that doubt and uncertainty about what you might be missing, that's a good time to be considering moving and exploring other things.
Yeah, that's a tougher one. I think that ultimately comes down to you personally and what you want out of your career. I have worked with people who have worked in the same job for 30 years and been really happy. They were the expert. They knew what they were doing. They really liked coming to work every day and knowing exactly what their job was. They knew how they were going to do it. Their whole day was structured. And then I have worked with people that, while they were happy, we still wanted more, and they wanted to see and push themselves and say, could I take that next step? Right. And so a lot of that is very individual. And you as an individual have to just look at that and balance it and say, do I want this next step? Do I want to see if I can do more? Or am I satisfied with where I'm at, knowing kind of this is my job and my career path? But ultimately, right, you're the person who can answer that question, no one else. And so if you owe it to yourself to be a little introspective occasionally and say, is this what I want? Am I satisfied? Or should I start asking myself, is there something more I want? And if there is, what is that? And then have those conversations. That's exactly what a mentor is for, is someone to have that conversation with and figure out kind of what you're feeling and what possible actions there are and what might be the best action in your case. And that's going to be individual in all those situations.
Career changing or switching from like a core actuarial role to a non-traditional role, maybe at the same company, maybe at a different one. To me, it's about like, where do you really want to grow? And where do you really want to stretch yourself? Like, I think one of the great things about actuarial science is it really is like lifelong learning. And that the best actuaries have done a lot of different kinds of things. Whether it's in the same company or different companies, like dabbled over here in investments for a while, went over to look at risk selection. I was in pension consulting, moving to industry. All of those experiences give you like a wider view that make you like a better actuary in terms of like assessing risk. I mean, the core of it is assessing risk, right?
Yeah.
How are we going to put dollar amounts to what these contingent events are, right? That kind of like ever learning mindset, I think, is how we end up going all sorts of places.